What up, everyone? I'm Jack Slater, aka the Comic Outlaw. Yeah. And as you can tell by the fine threads that I'm wearing, we're going to be doing a Cobra Kai Do or Die episode. Yeah. So kick back, all my fellow Cobra Kai's, Miyagi-Do, Ego fan, whatever, and get ready for the Comic Outlaw to strike first. Yeah. Now, for those of you that don't know, or, that just never watched this fucking channel before, I did a Cobra Kai episode like 3 years ago. Yes, 3 years ago I did a Cobra Kai episode, if you can believe that. And it was very early on in the show, and it was season 1, and I barely watched it, so this is kind of the overview to the overview. So let me start this off. I'll just review everything, and I'm going to drop massive spoilers. So if you haven't seen Cobra Kai, you might want to turn this off, because some of the people on this channel just drop spoilers. I've done it before. Other people have done it before. It's just one of those things that happens in the excitement of everything. So I'm just going to tell you now, I am going to drop spoilers for season 1, 2, 3, 4, and theories on 5. So there it is. First and only time I'm saying it, so. Alright. Season 1 of Cobra Kai, of course, I went over this. It starts off with Johnny Lawrence. Johnny Lawrence was the guy that Daniel had beaten in Karate Kid. And it goes with his life. He's basically a wreck. He drinks a lot. He fights a lot. He has a messed up relationship with his stepfather. He has a crappy job. Basically his life went downhill. And, of course, he meets this kid named Miguel. And him and Miguel forge a bond. And they begin reopening Cobra Kai together. Now, Daniel, on the other hand, ends up meeting Johnny's son, which I admitted that I did not like in the first season. I really just thought he was boring, bland, very one-sided. I don't know which writer decided to name him Robbie King, but anyways. It was just really bad on his part. Like there was a lot of, like, Cobra Kai was fully into, like, the people of Cobra Kai in season 1, like Eli's transformation to Hawk, stuff like that. But as I said before, Daniel also has a daughter named Sam, and he has a son named Anthony, and both will come into play later. Now Sam is another, like, there was a lot of the Miyagi-Do characters I did not like. And as they evolved, I sort of liked them, but they never really got it for me. So, of course, like I said in season 1, the tournament happens, Miguel wins. Like I said, go back to my Cobra Kai video before if you want, like, all the little details. I made like a 6-minute video on it, season 1. And season 2 kind of starts off after the tournament. They're building their respective dojos up, and Daniel's actually having problems finding students because Johnny Lawrence's Cobra Kai had won. They become very popular, and they just exploded. And Cobra Kai right now is teaching the geeks and freaks, So Daniel is having a big problem trying to find people. He has Sam, he has Robbie. And yes, this does bring Sam and Robbie closer together. Sam sleeps with a lot of... Yeah. That was another thing too. Like, Sam has no impulse control whatsoever in the early seasons. It's just amazing to me how they wrote this character. So, anyway, Sam gets closer to Robbie because she broke up with Miguel, and yeah, they end up sleeping together. And this relationship was kind of like I said, like a lot of the Miyagi-Do people, like, they end up getting Dominic, the kid that I just completely hated in the first season, and I really don't like now. I feel like he's just kind of a douche, and he got what was coming to him in a lot of different ways, and he was a douche all the way through. I mean, like, all the crap that he talked about Eli, he opened his, like, Miyagi's about self-defense, Miyagi-Do, but a lot of the Miyagi-Do people open their mouths and expect nothing to happen, which does get them in trouble in season 4. Then they're about striking first and running away. That's kind of the impression that I got from Miyagi-Do. And like, let's see, Dominic, I just despise him. Like, even through his season growth. But anyways, he becomes a Miyagi-Do student. He pisses off Daniel because Dominic's extremely neurotic. He doesn't think he's getting the moves and this and that. And eventually he learns how to do it. He gets the muscle memory. You know, he ends up learning how to fight. And at this time, Cobra Kai starts thinning the herd, or they start thinning themselves out because of infighting, arguments, you know. Season 2, Hawk kind of raids Miyagi-Do, destroys the dojo, and takes Mr. Miyagi's Medal of Honor, which was a very important scene in the original Karate Kid. And this leads to members of Cobra Kai leaving and joining Miyagi-Do, which was good because Daniel needed the numbers. And so with this continued back and forth beef, and I'm leaving a lot out because I kind of want you guys to see this show. I know I'm doing real broad strokes here, but I want people to watch this show and actually enjoy it. Let's see, the introduction of Tori. Tori. She is sort of the bad girl. Well, bad girl by environment. I mean, she lives in a bad situation. Her mother's really sick. She takes care of her sibling. She works 2 jobs. She's had a rough life. And so she's used to fighting for everything. So she becomes a natural fit in Cobra Kai. She's taken self-defense before. And I guess this is now like the best time to discuss the parallels between Sam and Tori. Let's see. Because people make Sam out to be the victim, but Sam is actually just a real bitch. And I'm just going to lay it out like that. I hope it's like, she hasn't really had any kind of character growth. I mean, from what I've seen, she's become more of a bitch. But the first time she accuses Tori of stealing when she was invited by one of Sam's friends to the country club. She does a lot of things. Like, Sam has a very big mouth. And of course, this starts problems with Tori. Tori, of course, was seeing Miguel at this point. They were dating. Sam decides to slip Miguel the old tongue. That starts a big fight. A big rumble. And it's worth watching. That rumble, the high school rumble between Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do in season 2. Whoa! Damn! That is just a great fight. And they want you to kind of sympathize with Sam, but it's a little hard sympathizing with someone that is real arrogant, real rich, prissy girl, and is boffing someone else's boyfriend when she has one. So the fight starts. You know, of course, Tori's whooping some ass. Cobra Kai's whooping some ass. And what happens is Tori ends up giving her a little scar with these brass knucks that she has with blades on them. Pretty cool. And so they get into a nice little fight. And this is interesting because I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit, because in, I think, season 4, when Miguel comes back and he's explaining to Sam about Tori's life and how difficult it is, and like this landlord, this scumbag, the dude in his 40s is trying to bang her, and she's still in high school for rent until John Kreese, yeah, he comes back, takes care of that. But Sam even goes, well, there's no excuse for that no matter where you live. And Sam's never had it rough. She's never had it tough. She's never tasted desperate. So she doesn't know. And this is why, I'm not the biggest fan of Miyagi-Do. I'm not. They just don't have it. So, yeah, the fight goes on, and Robbie and Miguel get into this big fight. Miguel has Robbie on the ropes. And he decides, because Lawrence was telling him that sometimes you show mercy, you don't just... He was teaching him the difference, not really mercy, but honor. The fight was over. Robbie was pretty much done. Miguel tried to take the honorable road and try to let him up. Robbie takes the lower road and knocks him off the balcony. He ends up falling and hitting his spine. which he needs surgery on. That's how part season 2 ends. Season 3 picks up with Miguel being operated on and him having flashes in his head of him fighting, like fighting kids in the tournament, but he's actually fighting for his life. And Robbie is taken off, trying to avoid being arrested for what he did. Sam's kind of in a free spin. The school's in a free fall too, because they're trying to do something about this karate thing, how they're gonna fix it. And one of the parts I do like is during the PTA, Daniel's trying to smooth everything over. I mean, he's a used car salesman, so why wouldn't he? And some of the people are saying, "Well, bullshit! I heard you were the bully." Or people from the crowd are or when they start defending their daughters, well, she shouldn't have been messing around with someone else's man, which is true. And this is the thing that bothers me about Daniel and Sam. They have this high moral standard, except when it comes to them. They could just break the rules when they feel that it's necessary to break them. But if anyone else does it, God forbid anyone else do it. That is, like I said, I keep harping on this, but that is my main problem with Miyagi-Do. It's just a mess. So season 3, they find Robbie. Johnny and Daniel team up to find Robbie. And the alliance doesn't last too long, of course. They end up fighting. They always do. Robbie ends up meeting his mom because she's at rehab now. And he gets arrested. He gets sent to juvie. And this is where Robbie's life kind of turns. He feels that Daniel betrayed him. He doesn't want to talk to Daniel anymore. He's kind of cut ties with him since Daniel's the one that kind of brought him there and called the cops. And Johnny tries to reach out to one of his fellow Cobra Kai members. I do believe it was Bobby, I think, because he's a preacher. And another great scene, he comes in all drunk, talking about all the messed up shit they used to do when they were kids. And he's a preacher now, so it makes him look bad. He ends up leg sweeping him, the whole deal. He tells Johnny, I'm with the clergy. I could get you in, because Johnny can't go in by himself because Johnny's had a couple dozen fights and this and that. So he tries to get him in. Miguel, at this point, is waking up. So he decides to stay with Miguel, the mother, which he has the hots for, and the grandmother thinks he's cool, and they pray for Miguel. See, he never really had a bond with Robbie like he does with Miguel. So Robbie gets another visitor, John Kreese. And yes, John Kreese came back at the end of Cobra Kai Season 2. Great fight with Johnny. And yes, John Kreese, the original King Cobra himself, comes back. And John Kreese, despite John Kreese being being a horrible asshole, he does have feelings for Johnny. He does look at him as a pseudo son, even though he was rough on him. Well, some people, and I know this from personal experience, some people can't show their feelings through hugs and stuff. They more vicious. They're more, well, that's the way the world taught them. Sometimes harsh times call for harsh ways. And that's the way Kreese was raised, and that's the way his experience with the military and other life experiences taught him. And so that's what he was pushing on to Johnny. And if you see Johnny's style, Johnny has a real drill sergeant approach to Cobra Kai. And this is what most of the karate people, because I've been watching stuff on YouTube, they're like, I can't understand his style, I can't understand why he does this, and I can't understand. John Kreese was a military man. So Johnny Lawrence treats his students like they're in the military in a lot of ways. He yells at them, he shouts at them, he tells them they're best in shit. He pushes them. Sometimes he pushes them a little too far, but he wants the best out of them. And this is the difference between Miyagi-Do. They want to breathe, they want to relax, they don't want to strike first, they want to meditate. And yeah, and I like how Johnny tells Daniel that some kids need aggression and some kids need inner peace. And that's why I like Cobra Kai. It's the other side of the story. But anyways, Johnny ends up getting betrayed by Kreese at the end of Season 2. He ends up leaving in Season 3. He forms his own group, Eagle Fang Karate. Yes, he takes the picture of an eagle, combines it with a cobra, forms his own karate group with Miguel. Kreese ends up thinning the herd even more, and bringing in these assholes that Miguel beat the shit out of in Cobra Kai Season 1. They were his original bullies. They kind of introduced him and Johnny together when they were beating him up, and Johnny had to step in. So they bring them in, and Kreese kind of gets rid of some other members of Cobra Kai, which ends up joining Eagle Fang. So Johnny ends up getting a lot of his original members back for Eagle Fang. The problem is that Cobra Kai is too strong, too powerful for Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang to handle separately. So the kids get together and talk about joining forces to stop Cobra Kai. Meanwhile, Daniel's in some deep shit. Due to all this karate hoopla and all the bad press, his car dealer contract was severed by Diona. I think that's the name. A Japanese place that imports cars to America. And so he has to go to Okinawa to see if he can save his company, in which he fails at first. He meets Yuriko. Wait, did I get that right? Well, he meets the girl from, no, not Yuriko. He meets the girl from Part 2. I was thinking about Wolverine's girlfriend for a minute there. And he meets her, and they end up having a moment, and then he meets Chosen, the guy from Part 2 that he fought. And Chosen teaches him some secret moves, like nerve pinches to make the arms numb. And he tells him that Miyagi-Do was also for aggression, too, for attacking. Because back in World War II and back in other fights, they had to learn how to defend their island, so they took different styles and they mixed it together, and they formed their own way of attacking. Daniel wonders why Mr. Miyagi never taught him this. Chosen probably tells him he wasn't ready, or maybe he just didn't want to teach him how to kill. Mr. Miyagi fought in World War II. He had lost a wife and son, so maybe he wanted to put that side of his life behind him. We don't know, but those are just my theories. It could have been something else. Daniel's always been a hothead. Maybe Miyagi feared that he would use that on someone viciously. Daniel, as you watch the series, always does have a temper. So Season 3 is kind of coming around, like Kreese is teaching Robbie, kind of reaching out to him, bringing him into Cobra Kai slowly, and he kind of forms a bond with him. And Robbie at this point just doesn't trust anyone. He wants out. And that's the basic thing of it. Like, he just wants out. So he begins hanging out with Cobra Kai. He does a few missions where they steal a Cobra together. But he is absent. He's actually with Kreese at this moment when Tori and the other members of Cobra Kai decide to raid Daniel's house. And another colossal group fight. And Cobra Kai is just wrecking shit. Now keep in mind, Robbie just came off of a back injury, so he's not 100%. So the fight is going really bad, and then Hawk, good old Eli, decides to turn. Yes, he does a turn. And he does a babyface turn like no other. He comes in, saves Dimitri because he broke his arm before. Back in Season 3, this is his redeeming thing. They're about, the Miyagi guy, or the Cobra Kai guys are about to break his arm, his other arm. So he saves his binary brother. They start fighting together. And Tori and, of course, Sam have a little fight. Nunchucks versus staff. And, yeah, Sam kind of wins. And Sam, during this time, is having PTSD in Season 3 from Tori, the fear, she actually leaves her people to get their butts kicked. Or she initiates a fight, and then she leaves them to get their butts kicked and Dominic's arm broken. That's the history in that. So she's having panic attacks up the yin-yang, and she decides to muscle through her fear. She fights Tori. Of course, the tide has turned since Hawk had done his turn, and this leaves Tori without her main ally. She calls him a traitor. She leaves. Of course, everyone's licking their wounds as far as the kids go. Johnny finds out what happened when he goes to Miguel's house, and he gets into this legendary fight with John Kreese. Robbie tries to interfere, and as good as Robbie is, you find out that Johnny's even better. Like, you gotta see these different fighters, because Robbie is one of the best kid fighters, but when he goes against Johnny, Johnny just schools him. Boom! Throws him against a locker, and this is a reflex. Leaves a scar in his head that's going to come into play later. And, of course, Kreese cheats at this point because Johnny knocked out his son. He was trying to check on him. Kreese grabbed a sai, hit him. Was about to stick him, about to stick him with it. Daniel kind of comes, interferes. Daniel's full of anger, justified anger at this point. And, of course, continues the fight with Kreese. He uses those moves that numb your arms. He ends up getting Kreese into a position where he's going to finish him. The kids show up, and they decide to settle this at the tournament. Season 4. The tournament where they're training people, and this is where Johnny and Daniel kind of join forces. And at first it really doesn't work. They're two very different styles. Hawk at this point is having problems because he basically burned every bridge that he had. He was an asshole in so many different ways. He still is one. Just because he's in Eagle Fang and Miyagi-Do, the Cobra Kai teachings don't leave him right away. Now, there's this little kid. He ends up becoming like Robbie's sidekick. Like I said, I just saw Cobra Kai 4, so I'm kind of like not fresh on the names. He ends up being the brother of one of the people that Robbie did time with Juvian. And Daniel's son starts bullying him to show that he's popular. He does a lot of messed up stuff to him. He tells him to cosplay in the park as one of his favorite characters. They end up trying to beat him up. So another LaRusso is going to get what's coming to him. Like I said, the LaRussos are assholes. I mean, like, Big Mama LaRusso actually shows up to Tori's work and tells her to lay off her daughter and gets her fired. Due to the argument and stuff. And this is like the thing that the LaRussos don't understand is that not all the kids are fortunate. And I love Kreese. Kreese is the perfect example of a Sith Lord. Yes, he is. The whole thing with Tori, remember I was telling you about her landlord? Kreese goes over there and fixes it. Kreese style. He threatens to break his hand. The guy decides that he's going to lay off of her. She ends up coming back to Cobra Kai. He excuses her fees. So Kreese has a master apprentice. And I think it's the same thing he kind of did with Lawrence. Kreese shows his feelings in different ways. I mean, he's a bad guy, but he does have feelings. And in this time, he brings in Silver. Yes, he brings in Silver. Remember the Quicksilver attack in Karate Kid 3? He brings in that guy. And, man, this guy is off the chain. Kreese he kind of gave up everything. Kreese kind of reminds him of his place in the world. Kreese saved his life back in Vietnam. And, of course, Silver told him whatever you need for the rest of your life. That happened in Karate Kid 3, but after that they kind of parted ways. He brings him back in, and Silver starts to make this slow, I don't really want to say slow, but a medium decline back into being a nutbag. And they have conflicting views on Cobra Kai. Of course, Silver is trying to prove his loyalty to Kreese. And he ends up getting into a fight with Johnny. And yeah, that was a great fight, but Silver ends up beating his ass. Kreese tells him to spare him. And that starts a rift between Kreese and Silver. Like I said, there's a lot of back and forth in this. Let's see. One of my favorite characters. Oh, yes. Before I get to Hawk, I want to talk about Dimitri. Dimitri ends up with that blonde girl. He gets humiliated in part 1, the real rich girl. Dominic or Dimitri. Yeah. The real neurotic kid. I think it's Dominic or Dimitri. One of the two. I've been calling him Dominic or Dimitri. I just really don't like him. So I really try not to know his name. But anyways, he ends up getting this blonde girl. His life is really good. And, I understand he had his arm broken, but was it enough? Eli Hawk, he goes through this whole transition. He ends up getting jumped by Robbie and some of the Cobra Kais. They shave his head because he's actually bullying that little kid that Robbie's protecting. Like I said, Miyagi-Do are actually sort of bullies too because they still have the Cobra Kai influence. They end up shaving Hawk's Hawk. He ends up going back to Eli. Oh my God, this is a lot of stuff. Like I said, either kid's name's Dominic or Dimitri. I think it's Dimitri, but sorry if I got that wrong. I just really despise the kid. Every time he's on, I just want to punch the screen. Same thing like for Sam. Like Sam ends up like Eagle Fang and Cobra Kai trade students, and she ends up kind of adopting a lot of the strike first Eagle Fang mentality, and Miguel ends up doing the opposite, and that's when both of them discover that the kids kind of need both styles since they're set in their ways. The tournament comes up, and like I said, I'm painting in broad strokes just so you guys can, you know, get the idea of what's going on. And so tournament comes around, and the tournament they end up doing different things where they have a girls final, a skills test, and a male final. So all these three things play into who's going to be the grand champion. There's going to be a male champion, this champion, and a grand champion. The grand champion is the one that wins. They made a deal saying that whoever loses, their dojos can't teach in the valley. So it turns into a big old fight. Spoilers. Alright, so the skills thing pretty much gets bombed out. Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai kind of tie on that one. And let's see. The Eagle fans kind of get dropped out early, but they still need Johnny. Johnny ends up coaching Sam. Yeah. He ends up kind of coaching Sam, her, and Daniel to victory. Miguel and Hawk in the semifinals get into a fight. Miguel ends up blowing out his back. And this is where he realizes that Johnny is more obsessed with winning at this point, beating Daniel, than him. And this leads him to disappear in season 4 to go find his dad. So he takes off, doesn't come back to the tournament. Hawk ends up fighting Robbie in a fantastic fight. Hawk ends up winning that fight. It comes down to Tori and Sam. Whoever wins this one wins the whole thing, because Cobra Kai won the skills, won the girls tournament. So this is the final one for the grand championship. Great fight. But Tori ends up coming up on top. Even though Sam's doing a combination of Eagle Fang and Miyagi-Do, she just gets caught up. Tori takes the victory. Of course, Tori finds out later that good old Silver paid off the referee, so this is probably going to come into play in season 5. Miguel, of course, takes off to Mexico to find his dad. This is where you find out that Miguel's father doesn't even know he exists. Johnny vows to go after him. Kreese ends up getting arrested because there was this fat guy named Stingray in season 1. He disappeared in season 2 and season 3 because he was at that school fight and he was an adult. So Silver gets drunk, beats the shit out of him, tells him if he wants to be in Cobra Kai, he should tell the police that Kreese did this to him. So he frames Kreese. Silver takes over Cobra Kai, says that he's going to finally take care of Johnny and take care of Daniel, take care of all of them. And Silver has the resources, he's very rich, and the power to do this. And so that's what's going to lead on to season 5. Daniel says that he's not going to honor this agreement from men that don't have honor, and he joins forces with Chosen over Miyagi's grave to fight this. To fight this thing once and for all. And so Chosen and Daniel at the end join forces. The kids are kind of wondering what they're going to do. And everything's just kind of up in the air right now. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen from point A to point B. Robbie kind of has a moment where he leaves Cobra Kai. Has a moment with Johnny, but Johnny's leaving to Mexico. So no one has any idea what their relationship's going to be after that. Daniel himself is in a bad way. Anthony, his son, is now, well, basically getting his butt kicked every day by that kid that he bullied. So, like I said, everything is not going good for the LaRussos. They have to pack up and leave the valley. And so that's where everything's at. So, what's going to happen? Who knows? I think Kreese might, in my personal opinion, I think Kreese might reach out to Johnny or figure out a way to get out, or Stingray might tell the truth. I don't know. But I think Kreese and Johnny will join forces in Eagle Fang. Hopefully. It'd be stupid if Kreese went back to Silver. And I think Chosen and I think Chosen and Daniel are going to unite against me or unite against Cobra Kai as well. It's going to be interesting to see the dynamic between Chosen and Daniel because they're very different personalities, and I want to see how that reacts with Miyagi-Do. Maybe they'll be able to fix Miyagi-Do. Because like I said, Miyagi-Do has a lot of problems. As does Eagle Fang, but moreover Miyagi-Do. I just, So I'm hoping that it happens from there. Maybe there'll be another tournament. Maybe they won't. I'd love to see a rematch between Silver and Johnny. I would actually really, really like to see that. And yeah, and I'm going to say this. Sorry for getting that kid's name wrong. Dimitri, Dominic, whatever his name is. He's like actually my least favorite character. And Sam's like right there on the bottom. Like I said, I mean, other people may like those characters. I just don't. I feel like those two just kind of get a pass for a lot of the stupid shit that they do, just because they wear the Miyagi-Do colors. You know what I mean? And I feel like Sam hasn't paid a lot of consequences or hasn't really learned anything. So I'm hoping she has more growth this season, because in season 4 she just became more of a bitch. More of a spoiled bitch in my perspective. So we're going to see where it goes. Tori kind of seems like she might be doing a turn for the good. We'll see. You don't know, because Sam is kind of a bitch. Even if she turns good, would Sam even let her in? So it's kind of a whole thing going into season 5. There's a lot of unanswered questions. I'm really looking forward to it. I really want to see who squares off against who joins forces, and who will still be around. Because Johnny's going to be gone in Mexico for a few episodes. This will leave opportunity for Chosen and Daniel to kind of establish their Miyagi-Do, figure out what's going on with Eagle Fang. And like I said, there's a lot of unanswered questions. So that's basically my whole spiel on Cobra Kai, Outlaws Corner. And as always, I'm Jack Slater, the Comic Outlaw. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Yeah!